Natural physics is a concept astrophysicist Leroy Larry developed that explains in down-to-earth scenarios how the principles of physics could have come about from observing nature. Each episode begins with a scenario, followed by an example to illustrate the application of these principles in futuristic research at the frontiers of science, such as Leroy's astrophysics doctoral research at CINESPA, Center for Space Research, and then concludes with an exploration of how these same principles could have very well been used by ancient cultures and civilizations. Mathematics is naturally encountered and incorporated as the exciting and fun tool of science that it is. Science is the window into our amazing world of nature, and mathematics is the tool to open that window. Natural physics encompasses current, futuristic, and ancient physics, and ties them together by the principles of physics that are common threads running throughout each.
Greetings. I'm Leroy Larry, and welcome to Natural Physics, live from Costa Rica, as we continue rocking and rolling with the spheres. I hope everyone listening and viewing, I hope all is well and safe with you and your families. I would like to start this show with a video that Mariela Bonilla, an original member of the Fat Pack, right, that she made for us. Please enjoy.
Hello, Natural Physics. I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm sorry I can't be live. I'm so sorry. But I'm so happy because we are in Season 2, Episode 3. Yes! Well, today I'm here at the beach in Playa del Coco. Let me show you. Wow, it's a beautiful place, right? And I want to let you know, here is where I usually come. And do you remember that sadly there was an earthquake in Haiti last August 14th? It was so sad. But I want to let you know that even though the distance in August 13, I came here to this same place with my son, as we usually come, and I was scared. I have to let you know, I'm going to be honest, I was scared because the sea was weird, it was angry, if I can say it this way. I didn't say nothing because I didn't want to scare my son. And then while we came closer, my son said, "What is going on here? The sea is weird." He thought the same as I did. And we stayed here for a while, and I said, I thought that probably it was going to tell us something. The sea was trying to tell us something. And it was around 4 p.m. here in Costa Rica time. And then the next day when we woke up, they announced IT tsunami. If you're watching this video and you know about tsunamis, please investigate, because I know the distance, I know that we are in different seas, but this happened to me. This happened to my son and I in August 13, a day before IT tsunami. And I think it's important to mention it in this program. I hope you do enjoy, because we're talking always about nature, about physics, and please share and comment if you want. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to be able to be live with you soon. But if not, I will be with you at least in short videos like this one. Thank you so much. Keep enjoying natural physics, and take a look again. Enjoy nature. I want to let you know that I've seen dolphins exactly on that site. Goodbye.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mariella. That was beautiful. Yes. Serious. I mean, hey, I had the opportunity to see dolphins when I was still living in Southern California at the beach. They're so magnificent. I mean, just the way they move, huh? Nature, just magnificent. Nothing, nothing human made. Technology, they're doing robots and all that that are, hey, they move pretty good, but nothing substitutes for nature, right? Um, and Mariella, I can't wait until you're able to join us live. Looking forward to it. But seriously, yes, until such time, thank you so much for taking the out of your time, out of your busy schedule to make these videos. Thank you so much, Mariella. Thank you very much. And speaking of that tsunami, I had an experience. Tears and I were still living in Southern California, and there was a creek that went alongside of our building, our apartment building, Bologna Creek, and the Bologna Creek wetlands. Oh, beautiful. Marina Del Rey. You had blue herons, um, cranes, just so beautiful. And when the tsunami occurred in Japan in 2011, you could see weird looking waves coming down the canal because Bologna Creek opens up into the ocean, into the Pacific Ocean. So, and these waves, they weren't normal looking waves. I mean, they really were not. They didn't look like waves that were just normally in the ocean. They didn't look like waves that boats might make as they pass by the shore. These waves looked angry. Like Mariella said when she talked about an angry sea, the energy was not right. It wasn't good energy. I mean, it was really creepy and not a cool creepy either. This was a bad creepy where from our balcony, we could see these waves just going down the canal like they weren't supposed to be there. It was just so weird. And then to realize that we were seeing the effects of something that had happened all the way across the world in Japan. Isn't that unreal? And what's even more unreal again is the energy. Yes, they were waves coming from the ocean, nature, energy, but it was not a good energy. And just to watch those waves coming from the ocean down the canal, oh, it was just so creepy. Okay. Um Now, I'm going to play a video. And you know, from season one, if I ever misspeak or have need to apologize for something, I will in a heartbeat. And last episode, I misspoke when I called the name of the third actor in the Road to Morocco roadshow. So I went and I looked it up, and yeah, I was close. There was an actor of the name that I called earlier in Hollywood. Um, I think from the 30s. These roadshow movies are from the 40s. And not only was there Road to Morocco, but there was Road to Bali, Road to Singapore. Hey, you know how Hollywood is. When they find a recipe that works, oh, they run it into the ground, don't they? And normally, none of the sequels are as good as the original. I know there's some where, hey, Predator 2 is pretty good, right? Predator 1 was the bomb. Predator 2 is not bad, not bad at all. So there's not a whole lot of, Star Trek. Star Trek 1 was good. I think Star Trek 2 is even better. And by the way, Wrath of Khan, right? And by the way, props to Captain Kirk, huh? Everybody, right? Captain Kirk this morning went up into space, right? I filmed it. I have film clippings that if we have time at the end, I'll show. But William Shatner went into the actual outer space. I mean, how cool is that that he got to do that? Okay, so again, uh, this I'm going to show the clip, the trailer for Road to Morocco that I mentioned last episode. This is from 1942. So think about it. World War II is going on. So I guess these shows, I know I joked about Hollywood regurgitating a recipe, but hey, think about it. These were escape, huh, from what was going on in the world, right? World War II is going on. Okay, Ray, if you would. Oh, so you'll see the name of the actor is Dorothy Lamour, not the name that I mentioned, Heidi Lamar. No, no, and they're both from different eras. Heidi Lamar is from the 1930s, I think. Dorothy Lamour is from the 1940s. So, okay, so enjoy, and you'll see where we got our motivation for doing our little outtake. Okay, Ray, if you would, thank you. Bob Hope, Dorothy Lamour, and Bing Crosby.
Could have thought
All
of
right, now
another way
check
to
this
get
out.
us here. Here we go again, Junior. We're off on the road to Morocco. This taxi is tough on the spine. Beats the bus, Hunter, beats me. Where we're going, why we're going, how can we be sure? I'll lay you 8 to 5 that we meet Dorothy Lamour. Off on the road to Morocco. Hang on till the end of the night. I hear this country's where they do dance of 7 days. We tell you more, but we would have the censor on our tails. We certainly do get around. Like Webster's dictionary, we're Morocco bound. We're on the road to Morocco. Look out, well, clear it away, here we come. The many fires sleep on nails and saw their wives in half. It seems to me there should be easier ways to get a laugh. We're off on the road to Morocco, and somewhere I feel kind of numb. For any villains we may meet, we haven't any fear. Paramount will protect us 'cause we're signed for 5 more years. We certainly do get around. Like a complete set of Shakespeare that you buy at the corner drugstore for $1.98. We're Morocco. Or like a volume of Overtime that you buy at the department store at Christmas time for your cousin Julia. We're Morocco.
We're on the road to Baduga. 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 All right. Everybody, how cool is that, huh? The silver dragon. This is a phenomena that occurs and it's caused by the moon, the full moon, huh? And as it said, this phenomenon has been observed 3,000 years ago. Now, you remember how we were talking about how all the ancient civilizations back during that time period, how they all keyed off of the moon. After looking at that, is there any wonder why? And we're talking about tsunamis and whatnot. I mean, the moon has a serious, serious effect on Earth. We know about low and high tides. I had never heard of the silver dragon before, but did those waves, huh? Weren't they were kind of different, weren't they, than what you would normally expect? So again, for survival, ancient civilizations got very adept at being very, very familiar with the moon, its movements. Now, towards the end of the show, I have what I consider to be a monumental announcement to make on a theory that I have come up with concerning how the spheres were used as a lunar calendar and also to predict lunar eclipses, okay? And I'm taking this opportunity to live a fantasy. Hey, maybe this is like Einstein when he came up with E is equal to MC squared, right? Humor me, please, as you humored me all season one. And I hope you continue to humor me now because I'm obviously I'm enjoying myself with this podcast and this simultaneous live stream, close as I can get to a TV show, and that's what I've been calling it. Again, just enjoying the ride, right? It's so much fun. Okay, so now before I make my monumental announcement, okay, I'm gonna test out screen share because this theory that I've come up with, I would call it an aha moment. Okay, so let's try out the screen share. Okay, so all right, everybody. Before we get to what I believe is my aha moment, um, last season, remember we looked at the. Oh, by the way, this is the most recent sphere that has been discovered in Fanka 6 in the Baduka territory. Beautiful, huh? I've shown this before. This is from May of this year. So as you'll see, there hadn't been any discovered in quite a while since this newest discovery. Excuse me. How cool is it? And you think how many more could there be out there? I mean, we know there's got to be more. There's more out there, right? Wow, unreal. All this ties into my theory coming up later. Okay. All right. So now, last season we read from the authoritative documentation on the spheres done by the head archaeologist at the National Museum of Costa Rica. This is the go-to research that any research groups that are trying to at least even get a start on looking at the spheres, they're going to start with this document. So it's in Spanish. Mariela Bonilla was so nice last season to have interpreted it for us, translated it for us. And what I want to do is I want to go back and reread what she said, what she translated. And the reason for this is because now that Tears and I went down there to the Diquis Delta and we were there in the energy and the nature and the surroundings, some of the things that are said in this research paper, they have more of a meaning. Now we know firsthand what they were talking about. We really do. And by the way, if there's any archaeological site or or just anything in the world that you want to see. Tour guide descriptions are great. They're awesome, but you need to go and see for yourself, okay? Only you can interpret for yourself what you see, the sounds of nature that you hear. I mean, you have awesome tourist descriptions that are written, but if you can, go there. Nothing beats a firsthand experience. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to read from the number one authority paper on the spheres and what's known in the science community about the spheres. And not a lot, as we found out last season. Not a lot when you think about all the other archaeological mysteries in the world. Surprisingly rare, the amount that has been written about the spheres. Okay, so I'm going to do my screen share. Bear with me, please. Okay, all right, here we go. All right, so this is the National Museum of Costa Rica, Department of Anthropology and History. And I think everybody can see the screen. So this is from July of 2007, okay? Hey, that's 14 years ago, right? That's a long, and look at where it says, by the way, Fanca means farm. So right here, farm 6, this was in 2005. Hey, 16 years ago, right? And to my knowledge, nothing has been done since. I mean, in terms of serious research. Okay, so let's get going. All right. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to in this document where they talk about the area. Because again, now that I've seen it for myself, okay, here we go. So this is the Diqui Delta. All right. And there's four main sites. Our Airbnb accommodations were there, right there in Palma Sur. I hope you can see my cursor. Ray, let me know if not. Okay. So, again, the area where the spheres have been found thus far is 10 hectares. Now, that amounts to 1/10 of a kilometer. Let's do a little a mind experiment. Okay, let's just say 1 kilometer is 10 city blocks. Excuse me. 10 city blocks, like 10 New York City blocks, right? Okay, so so a square kilometer then would be 100 blocks, right? If we're saying that 1 kilometer is 10 city blocks, okay, then a square kilometer is going to be 10 blocks times 10 blocks, 100 blocks. So we have a square kilometer is 100 city blocks. So a hectare or 10 hectares is 1/10 of a square kilometer. So out of those 100 blocks, we're looking at 10 blocks in which the spheres have been found. All right. Now let's zoom out. Costa Rica is 51,100 square kilometers, I think. Look at the minuscule percentage those 10 city blocks are within all of Costa Rica. And then let's zoom out even further. I feel like I'm doing at the end of Men in Black, right? When that was such a cool where they had the aliens playing marbles where they zoomed out. Anyway, so we zoom out from that to the globe. So do you get an idea of the minuscule area that the spheres have been found thus far within all of planet Earth? And that continues to intrigue me. It really does. All right, so let's continue. Okay, so the next thing was when we got to this figure right here, figure 3. Take a good look at it. it's going to be referred to again in what I'm going to be reading from. This is from 1955. Oh, by the way, let me go back up to another picture. Okay, you see this sphere right here? Look at the machinery they were using just to get these beautiful artifacts out of the way. I mean, I've seen spheres with the chain markings across them, right? Just brutal. But, well, okay. All right, so let's move on. Okay, all right. All right, so, okay, so again, remember this picture, 1955, okay? All right, figure 3. All right, so now we're gonna get down here to page 25 because in this document, this is the first mention of any kind of an astronomical connection that the spheres might have. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to go over here to my Word document. I became quite adept at doing this split screen stuff. Oh, let me read the description of the Farm 6 site, okay? That from the picture earlier, okay? And let me put the picture back up here. Okay, so okay, there's another view of it. Okay. All right. The Fanka 6 site, Farm 6 site, is located in the alluvial plain near an estuary, subject to intertidal action. The area has been used intensively for banana plantations. That's how the spheres were discovered. The National Museum has a property of 10 hectares. There's the 10 hectares, and it is expected to develop an archaeological park in that place. The site presents two alignments of spheres oriented east-west, several artificial mounds, buried cobblestones, and deposits of materials. It is located on the Changiana sheet, and it gives the latitude and the longitude, which you'll see later. I actually used in the Stellarium program, punched it in. Okay, so now I want to go down to the page where they first start talking about um, any kind of astronomical connection that the spheres may have. And remember again, this is the go-to document. This is the authority on the spheres. Okay, let me find it. Okay, here we go. So now I will read this. Okay. Observation of celestial phenomena. Remember, everybody, this is 2007, okay? 14 years ago. Observation of celestial phenomena. The objective is the observation of the relationship of the alignment of the spheres located in Fanka 6, Farm 6, with sunrise during equinoxes and solstices. The purpose is to explore some relationship of this alignment oriented from east to west with those phenomena based on a basic schedule related to the agricultural cycle and seasonal change. Okay, so now we're going to go down to page 88, which is the part of the document where they specifically talk about what is known so far astronomically in the scientific community. Okay, this is all the archaeologists that are considered the authorities. Okay, so okay, here we go. All right, and I'm not gonna read too fast, but let's just get through this. I'm gonna take a swig of water. Okay, here we go. A very close astronomical meaning of the spheres. The grouping of the spheres could represent the constellations, or they could be a sign of the sunrise or sunset during equinoxes or solstices. Those associations would be based on agricultural cycles and would constitute rudimentary calendars that, together with the other phenomena of nature, would indicate propitious moment, uh, basically a real good time for agricultural tasks, as well as social and religious activities. The alteration of the original site, or even worse, the total or partial removal of sets of spheres called astronomical gardens, have prevented further progress in this purpose. However, the option remains open, more so if one considers the well documented uses that the ancient societies of the time used of the sun and the stars, and the use of that knowledge for calendars, as well as myths and legends. Likewise, the observation of celestial phenomena still carried out by current indigenous groups such as the Bribri. Wonder why the Baruch aren't mentioned. Anyway, for whom an ideological closeness with the former occupants of the Delta is postulated. Okay. It provides direct support, therefore, it was conceived as one of the objectives of the project to explore possible associations of the groups of spheres with celestial phenomena. The recording of two alignments of spheres in situ, in situ, remember, some say tomato, some say tomato, at Farm 6, oriented from east to west. Everybody, I think those are the stars of the show, right? Those two spheres that are oriented east and west. And you saw the pictures that Tears and I took by those. And there's a rope in front of them, so you can't go in and touch them. But my goodness, that's those two. I guess they've never been removed from the ground, huh? They've just been left like that. Wow, so cool. Okay, the observations have been carried out for 3 years in a very restricted way. So the results are very brief, but they point to a huge potential for research. Here are some results. I'm going to go through this kind of quick, okay? Just to give you an idea. Computer simulations using, so there's this program called Starry Night Enthusiast 4.5. Not familiar with it. I use Stellarium, but hey, they use this in their research. Uh, some simulations were performed by introducing the variable space and construction of time around 800. I say AD, ACE. We don't say AD or BC on this show. Instead of BC, we say BCE, before Common Era. And instead of saying AD, we say ACE, after Common Era. Pretty much the same thing, but a little bit more scientific, based on more of a scientific reference frame. Okay, the relationship with the sun in particular, constellations were explored in search of possible relationships. So they're thinking that there's a correspondence between the spheres and the sun or some constellation. Okay, GPS measurements. Using the global positioning system, different groups of readings were taken at different sites with the spheres. All right. This was an extensive research project, everybody. This is the authority on it. Okay. Observations and photographic recording. Observations and photo shoots have been conducted, especially at Farm 6, at sunrise and sunset on the dates of equinoxes and solstices to record the relationship of the alignments with the horizon. On-site measurements. The orientation of alignments and the height of the horizon have been measured to look for possible relationships between alignments, topographical features, and sunrise or specific constellations. Primary results. Field observations in this case usually take a lot of time. These have been mainly limited to Farm 6 and especially to the spring equinox in March 21st. Remember, this was written in 2007, so the spring equinox, was on March 21st. However, the results are very poor because of the space and brief observations conducted. Due to logistical problems for some years, it has only been possible 1 or 2 days, but so much research is required to generate some conclusions. Here's what I'm talking about, everybody. Now that Tears and I went down there, I know exactly what they're talking about when they talk about a limitation in what you're able to do because of the weather. I mean, it's a serious rainy season. Okay, solstices and equinoxes. The sun appears at different points on the horizon during the year. The solstice marks extreme points of its trajectory, moving from northeast in the summer solstice to southeast in the winter solstice. During the spring equinox, it will be closer to the east with a short variation to the north in contrast to a small deviation to the south during the autumnal equinox. Computer simulations, I mean, they did it all, everybody. The alignments of the spheres at Farm 6 are oriented approximately from east to west, with a slight variation to the north, 82.5 degrees and 85 degrees 89 minutes, respectively. Using the program Starry Night Enthusiast, several simulations were produced on different dates, from 700 to 1500 after Common Era, for sunrise during solstice and equinoxes in part. The results of the conducted simulation pointed to the equinoxes rather than the solstices, with the spring equinox being when the sun would have come out in an orientation like that, or realignments without this being exact. Okay, figure 5. So now I'm going to go down to figure 5. Okay, there's figure 5. Okay, this is what they're talking about. Okay, computer simulation using the Starry Night Enthusiast program. Okay, a simulation, equinox, spring equinox at Farm 6 with the two spheres. Okay. A simulation was also made with the alignment of 7 spheres recorded by, this is figure 3. Remember when I said remember figure 3? Okay. In Farm 6. See, there's 4 major archaeological sites. Farm 5 is another one, is one of those. The alignment is oriented at 100 degrees and could be related to the autumnal equinox when the sun appears at approximately 92 degrees, or to a topographical accident on the horizon not yet documented in the mountains of Osa. That's kind of mysterious, right? That little ditty, the not yet documented. Okay, field observations. During the year 2004, this is 17 years ago, there were observations in Farm 6. It was only in March that the sunrise could be clearly observed. I can totally relate to this. Rainy season, I mean, you're not even hardly going to get a sunset because it's usually raining full force by 3 p.m. or so in the afternoon. You usually can catch a sunrise, but then again, sometimes you can't. Okay, it was only in March that the sunrise could be clearly observed. And again, we saw, we went, we saw, we experienced. We were in the Dickey Delta. Oh, it was so awesome. In June, September, and December, there were showers in the previous days, and usually the mornings were dark and cloudy. See, didn't I just say that? In addition, it was frequent that along the Serpy River, remember my buddy had the coconut stand, Serpe was on the sign, okay? And that's the name of the town at the end, at where the Serpy River opens out into the ocean, which runs between the alignments and the horizon. A bank of low altitude clouds rose that covered the horizon. See, the river pulled in all that condensation. Very hard to get a sunrise or a sunset. And by the way, before I forget, let me mention, we found out, Tears and I found out that at Farm 6, no internet connection, everybody. Zero. In the museum, there was some Wi-Fi, very limited, but out at the actual archaeological site, nothing, honey. Zero, right? So we wouldn't have been able to do a live broadcast from those two, the stars of the show, the two, and I don't want to take anything away from the other spheres or the other artifacts, okay? But hey, those two aligned spheres to the sunrise, equinox in the spring, pretty powerful, right? So, but we wouldn't have been able to do a live broadcast from there anyway. And so we were very lucky that we did our broadcast on fall equinox sunrise from the Park of the Spheres in Palmer, Sur, that had wireless, free wireless in the park. Hey, we really lucked out on that one. So all the filmage that you'll ever see of sunrise at those two spheres, they're not done live. So we would have been able to do it live. I guess we would have been the first in history to do so. Okay, let's continue. All right. All right. So okay, we stopped at figure 35. Okay. So now all right. Uh Okay. In addition, it was frequent that along the Serpy River, which runs between the alignments and the horizon, a bank of low altitude clouds rose that covered the horizon. Okay. Sorry about that repetition. In any case, in this month, the sunrise came out as recorded in the simulation. So they were ruled out as possible associations. We suggest that the spring equinox would be the most likely date of some correlation, since it is the period of the year of greatest luminosity, because it is the dry season. In the year 2005, 16 years ago, there were cloudiness conditions in 2006 and 2007. So, yeah, we're looking at almost 20 years ago, everybody. The sun came out with that deviation between 5 and 7 degrees, as seen in the simulation figure 36. So let's go down to figure 36, okay? So you can see what we're, okay, see, there's the stars of the show, okay? The two spheres that are aligned east and west, okay? And this is the spring equinox, sunrise, 2004, 2005, 2006. This is where we wanted to film live from 2 weeks ago. All right. Field out, let's see. Okay. Okay. Uh, so they were ruled out as possible associations. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. All right. The observations have not been as consistent as they should be. Some limitations have been for reasons of logistics, and distance has not been able to remain in the area during the days before and after the equinox to document the movement of the sun. Also, in some years, it has not been possible to be the exact date of the equinox, and the observation has been restricted to a single date. Weather has a lot to do with making these observations, and we experienced it, everybody. I mean, we experienced it firsthand. The alignments will coincide with the sun rise at some time of the year, which will be important to document and see other possible connections. This appearance may be related to some specific point on the horizon, which has not been recorded yet. A lot of observations that have not been able to do. Okay. They go on to talk about constellations, where there could be a possible connection with constellations. Everybody, again, you can pull this up, but there's some things I want to get to, so you can see. And what I want to do, I'm going to close this. I want to open this up. Now, here's the photographs that were taken in 2004, 2005, 2006. All right. Now, I want to bring up the pictures. This is the first picture. Thank you, Ray, for letting me know everything is cool running, man. That's one of those Jamaican, I think one of the Jamaican cool running, man. Okay. Okay, here's a picture of me in tears with the two stars of the show, right? Oriented east and west. So here's a current photograph, all right? Okay, and just to bring up a couple more. So again, remember this research document that I just read from, hey, it's from almost 20 years ago, but you can see the difference in the scenery, right? Now as compared to 2004, 2005, 2006. Okay. And then there's one more I want to show. Okay. Okay. All right. So, all All right, there we go. So I wanted to show those. All right. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm going to bring up Stellarium, and I've punched in. Oh, by the way, before I forget, we have been invited to the inauguration of the Baduka Indigenous Community Museum in the Baduka Village. It's been closed for a while, but the director has invited our group, and I don't know if you remember, but our trip, our expedition, was put on hold because of COVID, and that's when Tears and I went ahead and did our road trip. But look at these beautiful pictures that were sent to me by the director of the Indigenous Museum. Look at this. Look at that. Look at the perfection, everybody. I mean, you just look in awe. You really do. I don't know if this is the same sphere that was recently discovered in May that I showed a picture of before, but look at that. I mean, seriously. And we're talking 700 after Common Era, right? Or even before, maybe before Common Era. We might be talking about BCE, right? Unbelievable. And only in those 10 hectares, everybody, 1/10 of a square kilometer of the whole planet Earth. Okay. All right. Now I want to show you something else. So again, the museum, I guess they've went through a total refurbishment. So look at that. See the sphere there? Kind of peeking at us out the door and saying, come on in and look at me and be in wonderment and amazement and try to figure out my mysteries. Beautiful. Look at that building. Beautiful structure. Okay. We got one more. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Look at that, everybody. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, just so beautiful. Just made of the native wood of the area. And that's what we saw when we were down there. Structures made out of the natural trees of the area, right? I mean, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Now I want to go to Stellarium, and this may be the first time I may actually admit to having to go over a little bit, but okay. So now let's remember that according to the Badukas, the spheres were used as a lunar calendar to predict lunar eclipses. All right, now in the first, let me take a little swig of water. Okay, as you saw, the moon has quite an influence on the Earth. So it was very important for all the ancient civilizations to be very efficient at following the movements of the moon. Okay. And also, now a lunar calendar keeps track of the phases of the moon. And you saw in that video of the silver dragon how when a full moon rolled out, oh, the silver dragon appeared, right? Full moon. Okay, so not only was the movement of the moon important, but also the phases of the moon. So what I've done, you see here where I've punched in Fanka 6. Okay, and if I go to my navigational pane, you can see where Farm 6 is punched in, has that little red arrow that points we're at the archaeological site. Okay, so let's do this. Let's point to the east. I fixed it so we can trace the path of the moon. Okay, let's do a little revisit. Excuse me. Now, the way to predict a lunar calendar, remember the two lunar nodes, which are basically the points where the path of the sun across the sky and the path of the moon across the sky cross. Okay? Remember that all the planets, except for Pluto, They all orbit, I guess, yeah, Pluto's not a planet anymore. Okay. We'll talk about that in a future episode, but all the planets orbit the sun in the elliptical plane. Okay. Pluto orbits the sun at a 17-degree angle outside of the elliptical plane. Excuse me. Okay. Now, as the Earth orbits the sun, the moon orbits the Earth at a 5-degree angle. So, what that means is that the moon crosses the elliptical plane twice in an orbit, on the way around and on the way back. Okay? All right. And these 2 points are called lunar nodes. They simply mean that there are 2 points in this where the Earth, the path of the sun across the sky, which is basically the elliptical plane, and the moon across the sky where they cross. All right, now, so if you know the 2 points where the paths of the sun and the moon cross, all right, now what is a lunar eclipse? A lunar eclipse is when the Earth passes between the moon and the sun, right? Okay, so if you know that the sun is going to be close to one of those lunar nodes, in other words, the sun is going to be close to where the moon is going to cross its path, and if that time happens to be where the Earth is going to be between the two, you got a very good possibility that you're going to have a lunar eclipse. You know, full moon. What does a full moon mean? Full moon means that the Earth is between the sun and the moon. Now, on the other side of the coin, or flip side of the planet, a solar eclipse is when the moon crosses between the Earth and the sun. So, again, if you know if the sun is going to be close to one of those 2 lunar nodes at a point where you're going to have a new moon approaching, and what is a new moon? A new moon is when the moon is going to cross between the sun and the Earth. You got a very strong possibility that you're going to have a solar eclipse. So, back to our lunar calendar and being able to predict a lunar eclipse. So, if you know to very high degree accuracy the path that the moon takes across the sky, and you know the phases of the moon, when is there going to be a full moon? When is there going to be a half moon, a new moon? And you know the path of the sun, you got a very good idea of being able to predict a lunar eclipse. So let me just roll this real quick. So we're at Farm 6. We're looking east. I got the path of the moon traced out. So and you know what we're going to do? We're going to put this, okay, the spring equinox is March the 20th. So what we're going to do, we're going to go down here, and we're going to go up to date and time. So we're going to set this at March. Okay. Okay, here we go. March. Oh, you know what? Let me go back and do that. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so we're gonna do okay, I don't know. Okay, here we go. Use the arrows, Leroy. Okay, March 20th. Okay, let's use the right arrows. Okay, March 20th. And let's just go one day back, March 19th, just so we catch it. So basically, now we're going to say that we are on, and if you look, let me hide this. So now we are on March 19th. We need to be the next year, right? 2022. Okay, so 2022. Okay, so now there we go. All right. Ray, I apologize for going over a little bit, but this is just so cool. I want everybody to check this out. Okay, so now down here, you can see that we are set. We are on March 19th, 2022 for the spring equinox. So let's just watch the planets roll, okay? And I'm going to speed this up a little bit. So we're going to watch, again, we're at farm 6. We're looking east. So this would be the equivalent of watching sunrise at the archaeological site um, at Finca 6 come March the 19th, spring equinox. Okay. So, all right, it's getting dark. Okay. All right. Okay. So we got sunset. Okay, the night before. See, I knew what okay. The moon is coming up. All right. Okay, pretty cool, huh? And let me say that because now we know that we can't broadcast live from Farm 6, there's really no reason to go back for. I mean, now the energy is cool, and maybe we will go back just to be in the energy. But in terms of wanting to try to film sunrise, no, we're not going to try to do that because there's no internet. And hey, we were there. Okay, here comes the sun. All right, so there's the sun coming up. See the closest of the path between the sun and the moon. So again, if you keep track of the path of the moon, and you can keep track, it's not like you can look at the sun all day like you can the moon, right? See, now we're on March 20th, so this is equinox, 2022 spring equinox at the Farm 6 archaeological site. Okay, let's just let it keep rolling. Ray, I'm gonna owe you for this, but let's just keep it rolling. But this is all a lead up, everybody, to my grand announcement, my aha moment, my theory. Maybe it'll be called the Roy Larry's Theory. Oh, and by the way, podcast. Okay, see, there's the moon coming up. Okay. All right. And yeah, looking east and those two spheres that are oriented east and west. And I got to tell you, when that research paper talked about the weather and how hard it was to get observations, oh, and if you watched last episode and you saw the jungle I treads through to get to the beach, I mean, serious terrain, serious jungle, but and you can understand why there's no internet. Okay, so, okay, we're going to stop it there. I just wanted to show that. I wanted to demonstrate how easy it would be for an ancient civilization to keep track of okay to keep track of the movements of the moon with respect to the sun, okay, and to know the two lunar nodes, right, to know when the paths of those two heavenly bodies crossed. And back in the Middle Ages, Renaissance, they had an astronomer called Tycho Brahe who night after night sat and just noted the movements of the planets that he could observe, right? I mean, voluminous books that just filled a room night after night, noting where Jupiter was, where the moon was, where Mars was, right? Now, his student, Kepler, was able to go through all that data and find a pattern. He found a pattern in all those voluminous books of data. He found a pattern. And what resulted? Kepler's 3 laws of planetary motion. That, as far as we can tell, every planet in its motion around the sun obeys these mathematical equations. Remember what I said? Mathematical equations are our window into our amazing world of nature. There's a prime example right there. Okay, so with the ancient civilizations following the motion of the moon and the sun, they came up with they found a pattern. Okay, they found a pattern in all those observations that enabled them to figure out that, yeah, when the sun is close to the point in the sky where its path crosses with the moon, and when there's going to be a full moon around that time, there's a good chance there's going to be a lunar eclipse. And if there's a new moon around that time, there's a good chance there's going to be a solar eclipse. Okay, everybody, now I'm going to get to my grand announcement. Ray, I don't know if you're able to, excuse the pun, drum up a fake drum roll, but okay, here we go. I'm going to take a swig of water. Well, now that will work. And podcast listeners, again, if you just type in, you go to Google and type in LeroyLarry.com, LeroyLarry.com, it brings up everything you would want to know or not want to know about natural physics, okay, and me and all that, okay? And you can look at all the recorded episodes, all of it, right? Okay, now, the spheres have been theorized to have been used by the Baduka as a lunar calendar and are able to predict lunar eclipses. And a lunar calendar keeps track of the phases of the moon. Now, we know that it's very important to be able to keep track of the path of the moon across the sky. Ergo, the positions that the spheres were in originally. We'll never know now, will we? Because so many of them have been removed. But let's just say that their positions definitely correlated to the movements of the moon and with respect to the sun. They needed to know the path in the sky, the two lunar nodes where the two would cross, right? In order to predict a lunar eclipse. Now, how would you represent the phases of the moon with the spheres? Ray, can I have another of that, what that was, party horn or party booper? Whatever you call it. Everybody, this is my minute. This is, okay, you ready? I mean, this could be world shaking, world changing. How would you represent the phases of the moon with a sphere? Okay, now obviously a whole sphere, yeah, that could represent the full moon. Maybe if you use some kind of darks. I don't believe the Baduka would have painted their objects, so I'm not going to say if you painted it black, but let's say they found a rock black and you carved it. Okay, that could be a new moon, right? But let me ask you this, how would you represent a half moon? You're going to carve a half a sphere? And even more hard, a crescent. How are you going to carve a crescent? Now, be it that we theorize that there was a plant or is a plant that exists where can soften stone, but even then, how are you going to represent the phases of the moon using a sphere? Here we go, everybody. Leroy Larry's theory of how the spheres were used to represent the phases of the moon. Oh, I like that. That was Twilight Zone-y. Right on. Their size, everybody. What if the sizes of the different spheres represented the percentage of the moon that was not yet to be a full moon? I mean, what I'm saying is, what if you had the smaller spheres that represented a long time from when a full moon is going to occur, and as the spheres got bigger and bigger and bigger, they represented how closer you were getting to the full moon, which is what you need to know in order to predict a lunar eclipse, right? Okay, on that note, okay, I have presented my theory, Leroy Larry's theory. I submit that the positions of the spheres kept track of the position, the movement of the moon as it crossed the sky, and the movement of the sun, maybe even the movement of the earth. Hey, don't rule out that they didn't know that the earth rotated around the sun and that everything did not rotate around the earth, okay? So I submit that the positions were a way of keeping track of the motions of the moon and the sun, and I propose that the sizes of the spheres represented the phases of the moon in order to know when a full moon was going to happen, in order to predict a lunar eclipse. Okay, on that note, yes, all right, thank you very much. So I will leave you with that. Tune in next week, same fat time, same fat channel.